One.
Hello, welcome to America's Mayor Live with Rudy Giuliani. And we'll pick up where we were on the Rudy Giuliani show. That was on here on X from 7 to 8. It is every night, but it's also on Frank Speech Network. And we were talking about the attack that the Russians carried out on, we'll go to the map, so we can see all the little markings I've already put there, right? Dnipro is right here. That's Dnipro is the area in Ukraine that was hit by the Russians with an intercontinental ballistic missile, the first use of an intercontinental ballistic missile in this war. It was not a nuclear missile, as far as I know, but it's still a much more lethal weapon than anything anybody's used in this war before. And that line, that red line that you see here, that I had drawn right there, right along there, that red line demonstrates where the Russian portion of Ukraine is. That's the territory that they took in here. All this area here is the territory that they took and they control now. So this Dnipro is close to the area that they control and possibly a place they would like to take and add to their conquests, so that if they do have to negotiate, they're negotiating with your money, with parts of Ukraine they didn't have before. And they of course are going to want to have, and you see that up here, up in the corner here, right up here, that's Kursk. This is the area that the Ukrainians took. Kursk is the area the Ukrainians took when they invaded Russia. That's the area that the Russians are now, the Russians have tried to take back, were defeated twice in doing it, and then brought in the North Korean troops who are going to carry out an assault on Kursk, which I think has begun. I'm not absolutely certain. So that's where we are, and we have a very ominous speech from Putin saying that now he feels that he can use nuclear weapons because of the missile attack by Ukraine on Russia. Now, that missile attack was modest in comparison to the intercontinental ballistic missile that Putin used. It was a missile that travels about 150 miles. The missiles they've been using up until now travel about 50 miles. And they're not going to get you very far in Russia. So one might say that his statement, maybe even his action, was an overreaction. But his statement was that he's also going to feel free to use it on the U.S. and allies who assist Russia in doing this. He said, "We believe that we have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of the countries that allow their weapons against our facilities." Well, one of the countries that allows their weapons against our facilities is the U.S., and the specific weapons that were just used, the more extensive missiles, were specifically UK weapons. Now, is that a serious, in essence, almost like declaration of war, or is that his usual bluster? Well, I think it's very, very hard to analyze that. So you have experts, of course, divided on that. The day before, the former military chief, Valery Zalushny, giving a speech, told an audience, "I believe that in 2024, we can absolutely believe that the Third World War has begun." Now, was that a statement that was cleared with Putin first? The guy was an ally of Putin's, as far as I can tell, just retired, not, well, they didn't poison him, which indicates something, I guess. And is that an authorized statement to try to raise the level of raise the heat here or not? Now, a lot of experts, whoever they are, say that this is very typical of Putin to do a lot of saber rattling, and that what it might really indicate, so here's a different interpretation now, is how desperate he is to improve things before Trump comes in, because he has a real fear of what Trump might do. And trying to get the West, particularly the American allies, to drop their support for Ukraine. Now, it's anybody's guess as to which it is. I would say that for purposes of defense, we should assume the worst. And Germany is doing that. Germany is moving 200,000, or has moved 200,000 troops from the western part of Germany all the way up to the eastern border near Poland. And they're either German troops or NATO troops, and if they are German troops, they're probably German troops dedicated to NATO. And some of the other countries are giving out warnings about what could happen if a war broke out. So a lot of people are taking it seriously, and not just saber rattling. Of course, we really have no president right now. These decisions that were quite monumental, made by Biden now, which could have been made or should have been made if they were going to be made a year ago, and they might have had some effect, are, as usual, extremely irresponsible. Making it, filling out the career now almost without exception by making one mistake after another in foreign policy. To attack now without any prospect of being able to win this thing is, well, you sure should let the next president decide, since he's going to have to solve it, not you. Well, the Jussie Smollett case has now been completely reversed, and Smollett's not going to spend a moment in jail for having pulled off a racial hoax that could have resulted, if it weren't caught fast enough, in riots all over the country. I mean, what Smollett did was, in order to get himself, pathetic idiot, in order to get himself attention, feigned a racial attack, an attack on him by theoretically two black MAGA guys. And they beat him up within January of 2019. They beat him up. He reported it. Then it turns out that he paid the two guys to beat him up. He feigned the whole thing. And eventually, the case was first fixed by the district attorney Fox. That was a Soros corrupt plant in Chicago. But Chicago doesn't have enough trouble, right? They've got murder every weekend like it's Vietnam. And this guy pulls off something that could have led to death, bombings, attacks on buildings, attacks on courts. And then the DA, because it's a place purchased by Soros, does nothing about it. Well, then a special prosecutor was appointed. He was prosecuted, he was convicted, and he was given a sentence. And now the case, the cases, the charges the charges have now been dropped. So I guess it's okay to feign a racial attack so long as you're black. Exactly what someone thinks they are accomplishing by not holding people accountable for doing something like this is very, very hard to very, very hard to accept, and does give you a glimpse of the tremendous damage that Soros has done to this country by appointing these prosecutors. Now, if this was the only thing, it'd be pretty bad. But he's appointed about 70 of these anti-American, criminal-loving nuts that have led to records for homicide in places like Philadelphia and St. Louis, and 7 out of 10 of the homicides are Black people. One could say that Soros is responsible for more Black death in America than anyone in recent memory. It is a shame that I have to give you as breaking news the fact that President Trump apparently appointed Scott Bessent as the Treasury Secretary. Now, I don't know Scott Bessent at all, and he may be very, very qualified. He'd be a very nice man, but he was Soros's pretty much his partner for 4 years, and that would disqualify him as far as I was concerned, because I don't trust him. I don't trust anybody associated with him over that period of time. I am told that he had a falling out with Soros, but that can be feigned. Soros would do anything to get some kind of a inroad into the Trump administration. And that's the kind of conniving, sick individual he is. Anybody that would spend $50 to $60 million to make cities more dangerous because he wants to create chaos so that we destroy our form of government and submit to what he would like better. He's against American nationalism. He's against American singularity, and he's in favor of a one world government. Now, to accomplish that, Karl Marx, Engels, and others have the road to doing that, and that is to create chaos in the country that you're trying to change. And he follows that to a T. And he's done that in Eastern Europe, attempted to do it until they threw him out. He was a terribly destructive player in Ukraine. I came to learn when I investigated Biden and uncovered the crimes committed by Biden in Ukraine. And he resorts to means that would be indicative of a very conniving intelligence service. So I look, the president is the president, and he gets to make the choices that he makes, and I love him, and I support him, and I hope I'm wrong. But I'm telling you that I wouldn't have done it. I would not have taken anybody that was with Soros, no matter what their explanation was. They wouldn't be in my administration for the good of the United States. But he's appointed him, and probably, given Soros's influence, he'll get confirmed right away. That he gets Democrat votes. Let's see. If he does, that's kind of an indication, isn't it? Meanwhile, speaking of Congress, Mayorkas and Ray didn't show up today. And this is a time of tremendous importance, because there is a rush at the border, and a lot of really bad people could be coming in, and they didn't show up for their hearings. They are in contempt. But you see, if you are in the privileged golden circle, nothing happens to you. But if you're Steve Bannon, you go to jail. And if you're Peter Navarro, you go into leg irons, if that happens. Or if you're me, you get called down to Washington to have a contempt hearing because I defended myself against the things that were being said by my adversaries. But I'm not allowed to defend myself publicly because I don't have American rights. Only Democrats do. But I mean, this is ridiculous that these people, how often have they committed contempt and nothing happens? And we've actually had 2 very, very fine gentlemen put in jail for it. Right. 2-tier system of justice. God, I mean, we find these euphemistic descriptions that are terrible. Like, I always thought lawfare was very, very euphemistic for complete corruption of our criminal system of justice. And the use of it, the way a communist or a fascist or a Nazi government would use it to prosecute the people that you politically disagree with. You got to come up with a word worse than lawfare. And the same thing with two-tiered system of justice. A two-tiered system of justice is complete injustice. It's the absence of justice, because justice is supposed to be equal, right? It should be irrelevant if you're white or black. It should be irrelevant if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It should be so every human being has the same set of rights. Used to be one of the magnificent things about the liberals was how they would often say the test of your dedication of free speech is not whether you support the people to speak freely you agree with, but do you support the people you disagree with to speak freely? I do. I want to hear what they have to say. I think it takes a lot for speech to go over into the line of being a crime, even hate speech. You know, the Supreme Court has modified the decision about crying out fire in a crowded theater of Justice Holmes. They did it in the 50s. I'll get a copy of it and read it for you. Basically, to be convicted for incitement to riot or incitement to violence, you got to participate in it, not just talk about it.
That's right.
You're allowed to lie. You're allowed to say false things. You're allowed to, all in the effort to protect all of our rights. I mean, when I say well, you're allowed to lie, a lie can be in the eye of the beholder, and I don't think anything illustrates it more than the unbelievable deprivation of free speech by the Democrats, the Democrat governors in particular, who have these dictatorial tendencies. And then the Biden administration trying to set up and all these European countries trying to set up these agencies that will police misinformation. Now, here's misinformation. The vaccines for COVID do not prevent COVID. For a long period of time, that would be considered disinformation and probably get me thrown off YouTube. The statement turns out to be 100% scientifically correct. Their statement turns out to be untrue. But they dominated the vehicles of speech, and they penalized seriously anyone who said the opposite. And they were dead wrong, if not worse than that. The evidence shows quite clearly that COVID emerged from the lab. That also would have gotten you thrown off the air, penalized, fired, whatever. It turns out that the FBI now says the preponderance of the evidence shows that the COVID emerged from the lab. Again, I can go on and on and on. That's why we don't have a ministry of truth in America. They have it in Orwell's 1984. They have it in Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, but not in America. Trump's appointments are, we mentioned Scott Bessent as one that I think is questionable. Here's one that I don't think is questionable, and that's Pete Hegseth. And Pete did a very, very good job of completely destroying the allegation against him of some form of sexual abuse, because the woman who made the allegations, and it's rare that this happens, the woman who made the allegations didn't know that there were cameras that showed that she quite merrily and happily went along with it, and it was completely adult consensual.
That's right, Mayor. And
the hotel security camera footage showed investigators that Hegseth's accuser did not have an unsteady gait, that she was smiling, that she had her arms locked with Hegseth. and that she didn't recall it until a day later, probably when she found out who he was and she'd get money from him.
Well, Mayor, we've seen a whole slew of picks within the last hour, so we'll list some of these off here. President Trump has announced, this is within the last hour, Russell Vought as the director of the Office of Management and Budget. That's Russell Vought, who,
by the way, a hidden one of the most powerful positions in government.
and he's someone that's been, I believe he's been with the president before. I've heard his name.
And a very difficult job. I mean, basically, it's overseeing the most complex government budget in the world.
And then next up, this is again within the last hour, President Trump has named Dr. Jeanette Nashiwat. Excuse me, doctor, if I'm getting that a little wrong. Dr. Jeanette Nashiwat for Surgeon General.
And she is a Fox.
She's a regular on Fox. I've actually seen her.
Has anybody left on Fox?
Some strong points she's made, and I've messaged her after seeing her on.
In addition to Pete, did you take somebody else from Fox recently?
A number of I mean, Tom Homan had a.
No, but Tom was on Newsmax too all the time.
That's right.
So I don't think he was an exclusive.
He was on Newsmax. I think at one point became exclusive because we had some.
Tom became an exclusive.
I don't know to Fox.
Well, we did.
I believe so. Don't quote me on that. And it doesn't change our feelings. Of course, we love.
No.
Tom.
It's
interesting.
I'm almost making a joke about it, but
he's named Representative Lori Chavez de Reamer as Labor Secretary. I believe she comes from the state of Oregon. Presumably a safe Republican seat. I know people are freaking out about
when you say Oregon, is there really a safe Republican seat in Oregon?
I believe it's probably similar to Washington State, where outside of Portland and Corvallis, that's where the University of Oregon is located. Outside of some of those super liberal areas, I believe.
The lady who calls us, we should.
Let's check in. Let's get our friend from Oregon. I'm gonna give her a text. We'll try to get her to call in and give us the down low on rep.
I give the number.
Lori Chavez. Let's put the number up. We'll put the number up. Give us a call. We'll take some calls here at the end. So we'll put that up as we continue to list some of these picks by the president. Certainly feels like the NFL draft. The next pick is in. So the president has named Dr. Dave Weldon to lead up the CDC. Dr. Dave Weldon. That is a new name, but
it's going to be
an important position.
You got to straighten that place out.
Right? I mean, who would have thought? And then, of course, with COVID, we started hearing from the CDC every day. And then Marty Makary. Marty Makary. Are you familiar with that name?
Yep, I am.
He is going to lead the Food and Drug Administration. So a slew of picks coming in on a Friday night.
He's getting it done quickly.
He is staffing this.
Of course, unfortunately, we lost one, which shouldn't have happened. Congressman Gates would have been a fine attorney general and would have done a good job of doing what the president wants to do with the Justice Department, which is to immediately make it a Justice Department again and not an agency of the Democrat dictatorship, which is what it is right now and has been for about 3 or 4 years, 5 years. Probably Holder and Obama are the ones who politicized it completely. And that's not just the FBI, but it's also justice. Now he's named Pam Bondi, who would be able to accomplish that also. But it's a shame that Matt had to go through all that. Now, Matt has decided not to run. Or not, actually, he doesn't have to run. He has to resign. Matt is elected to the next Congress, and he could just go take a seat. You know that, right? Doesn't have to run. So I guess he's going to resign, and Governor DeSantis has set a date, Ted, for an election.
January 28th, I believe, is the primary, and we'll get that date for sure. Because this is really one of those very safe red seats. So the election really is January 28th.
Very often, if they do an election like this, they just do an open election.
Just everybody
runs, yeah. But in any event, they can do a primary in February, and the Republican, that probably is the election, right?
Right.
And then the actual election in April.
That's April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Oh, a bad,
For those that
what a bad day to run.
partake, yeah, people aren't going to believe there's an election. You tell them there's an election, like, oh, you're just fooling me. April Fools, right? So hopefully there'll be good turnout. But of course, again, one of those seats, right, Mayor, where the primary is the real election day.
Yeah, and in favor of Republicans. That's unusual. That's good though, because you cannot afford any of those seats. You can't afford a single one. We got to find out about the one in Oregon though.
Yeah, let's get our friend Colin. We got friends in Oregon, but I think it's similar to some of these states where, I mean, even California, right, outside of the cities.
So your Central Valley of California is massively Republican. Or you go to upstate New York, where Congresswoman Stefanik's district in upstate New York is solidly Republican. They're going to hold that.
Right.
She looks like she's moving along pretty well.
Right.
No problems, right?
Not that I can.
We know her quite well, and I'm very impressed with her as a choice, and a real good addition to the Trump administration.
Agreed.
As most of them are.
He's making some strong picks.
Well, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back, and we're going to have a special guest tonight, quite relevant to what we're talking about. You come back, you'll see.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
2-1. Well, yep,
Right
we're going to
there.
bring that up. We'll bring that up here in a second. We've got a special guest in just a moment here, Mayor. See if we can't bring him up. We just got to get his camera set up here.
Welcome back to America's Mayor Live.
We got to get our special guest.
And introduce our special guest.
We're going to introduce him once we get him up on the screen. Right there, you got to. Yeah, it's almost like he's going to come out from behind the special guest curtain. So we're going to have him in a minute. So just to recap again, some recent picks. Again, this is within the hour, Mayor, and I'm actually going to check to see if there's been any more picks since we've been.
Well, we mentioned Pam Bondi.
We did. Pam Bondi, of course, the new pick for Attorney General. Rep. Lori Chavez DeReam.
But she was actually appointed yesterday.
That's right.
And Besant today.
And again, that's not even an announcement from the president. That is being reported as he has been offered the position.
Maybe he'll turn it down.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you always wonder, right? Who's leaking what and what. So who's leaking the fact that it's being offered, and does Scott want to like have that so then he can take a moment, right? And then the next leak will be he accepts the position, right?
If
It's
he
like one of those
chooses
deals.
it, it'll disprove my thesis or my concern. I mean, it's not a thesis. It's not a fact. It's a look. You don't have to appoint anyone. So I always follow excess of caution. Any connection to the other side that you can't resolve 100% shouldn't be there. And this guy is too dangerous and too manipulative and too capable of trying to plant somebody that you would put someone that close to him, even if they did have a falling out. I wouldn't trust a falling out. That's me. And maybe it's the product of having been a prosecutor, and maybe it's the product. I mean, I believe that long before the Democrats persecuted me. So it's not a result of what they've done to me and how if they've made me cynical or not. I hope they haven't. It made me more realistic. I don't think they've made me cynical. Okay, so we don't have a guest.
We will. We're working out some connection issues as we speak.
And then
The beauty of live television.
shall I go on to a different subject
Yeah.
for a moment?
Pick up a subject while we wait
No,
for our special guest.
I would like to point out that there is a case in New York with a judge who should be dismissed, thrown out, thrown off the bench. And there are probably a group of judges in America like this. And they're usually, if not always, Democrats. And this comes out of the Queen's Democratic machine. Once again, I'll explain to you that the judicial system in New York City is a joke because the appointments are appointments from the the county leader of the Democrat Party. Because there are in many districts, there's no effective opposition. So as I pointed out about Judge Engomoron, he's been elected 3 times in his 19-year undistinguished career and never had an opponent. Judge Merchan, who's cleaning up in terms of money, the daughter had pulled in at least $500,000 from Harris after he framed Trump. Judge Merchan has never been elected. They just keep, the Democratic leader in Manhattan just keeps appointing him. And I don't know how they have him on the bench. He's a civil court judge. It's been raised to the Supreme Court, but never been elected to it. So they got him by the short hairs completely. And believe me, the leader, Wright, son of Let Him Loose Bruce, certainly controls that place for the pure benefit of the Democrat Party. They're not going to make a decision that's contrary to the interests of the Democrat Party. Like, for example, that might be fair to Donald Trump or me. Well, one of these Democrat poor excuses for a judge named Judge Daniels had a case before him, and the case was a guy who tried to rob 2 Jamaican businesses on Tuesday before he shot and wounded a 26-year-old woman and a New York City cop, Rich Wong, who returned fire and killed him. And Mayor Adams has described Judge Daniels as one of the best and brightest and said public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. However, this guy who's one of the best, imagine what the worst was, had just refused to detain Worthy, who had been arrested for violating his lifetime parole. And he also was set free from a drug charge and a resisting arrest charge. The guy's on lifetime parole, and he does this, and Daniels let him out. Daniels ordered him released without bail, even though the Queens District Attorney's Office, which is not Bragg's office, it's closer to a real district attorney's office, ask for $120,000 bail or send him to Rikers Island, where he belonged. Let him out, and he almost killed a police officer. That police officer right there, who I don't know how seriously injured he is. That might just be because he was let out of the hospital, but those are all his family and the police officers. If we showed you that whole picture, you would see quite a crowd. You would see quite a crowd there. This is the judge. He's quite happy. He didn't get shot. A woman also got shot as a result of his incompetence and liberalism, his typical Democrat love of prisoners and murderers and killers and people who are out on lifetime parole. I don't know why you're out on lifetime parole. You should be in jail if you have a life. If you need a lifetime parole, you should be sitting in jail, because idiots like this will let you out. Democrats have been doing this forever. Remember? Oh well, you'll go over too many old cases if I do that. If I do that, we'll go over too many old cases. I think this is the guy right there. This is the guy on lifetime. This is the guy on lifetime parole who tried to kill a cop, shot a woman. He's now gone. Police officer, thank God, lived. And we'll see. But Judge Daniels, once again, should be gone. So people are calling for his being dismissed by the mayor. The mayor, who said he was one of the best judges, has condemned what he did. But the mayor does not have the power to remove a judge. He has power to appoint him, but not to remove them. Now, he has the power not to reappoint him because he is a criminal court judge. Well, he gets to appoint them. It's a very, very strange system. The civil court judges are elected. So they're picked by the Democratic Party leaders, who often end up being crooks and all hacks. So that takes the levy of court and takes it all the way down to hack level. And even though you have some good judges, they're going to have to compromise on cases that are important to the party. Anybody that tells you that's not true is lying to you. And that has been the case, for 150 years. And one of the reasons that our bar association that threw me out for only political purposes is a completely political animal is they've never done anything about that in 150 years. Well, they posture and attack conservatives all the time. And they let us in New York have a completely corrupt, and because of no such thing as being a little corrupt. If you can be leaned on for an unfair, unconstitutional decision that's political, there's a chance you'll be leaned on for anything. So no one's ever done anything to try to fix that. And I don't know about the court systems in other places, but this could be one of the most corrupt methods of selecting judges. Very cagey because people get elected, but they get elected in places where nobody runs against them, which was similar to the Soviet Union. You would think that a bar association that represents high ideals would oppose that, unless the bar association is no better than the legal community that allows a court like this. So we're going to have to really do a good job of keeping after this, because this has to be changed. New York is on its way out in so many ways. The congestion pricing now is totally idiotic. For a city that's losing population more than any other city in America, just about, to charge you money to come into it is insane. No place in America does that. And the head of the Democrat Party supports it, saying it's not really a tax. Okay. What does it matter if it's a tax or not? You got to pay it. If they take the tolls and make them $100, oh, it's not a tax. It's still going to drive people up. And this half asshole says, "Oh, it won't deter people from leaving New York." How do you know? People are on some are on the brink, right? They got 20 reasons to leave. Now you have 21. It's certainly not a reason to come to New York to pay money, just to drive. And meanwhile, the governor and he are against an extra tax on the rich, which I'm against also. But now you're imposing this on the middle class. Meanwhile, someone like Bragg, if you take a poll, will win re-election. So I'm starting to think California is better than New York in terms of being left-wing fools, because they got rid of, in Los Angeles and San Francisco, their Bragg DAs. Mescon gone, the one in San Francisco gone, one of the criminal-loving mayors gone. In areas that voted heavily for Harris, just the opposite, the other way around. So that shows some degree of cessation of the Pavlovian syndrome. You know what that is, right? Pavlov's dogs would react to food. They do anything, to food. They do anything.
Yeah.
Well, these people, when you say Democrat, they just vote Democrat because they're brainwashed. That's Chicago. 60 years, Democrat mayor, every weekend, killing field. Nobody changes it. They just keep making the same mistake. New York, the same thing. How the hell they elect Adams and de Blasio and Hochul Pokel?
Well, Mayor,
Yes.
after some slight technical difficulties, I'm going to take all the rap because our next guest, this guy is way too smart to run into issues like this. So I'm taking all the blame. Our next guest, Mayor.
Real mensch.
That's right. So
should we take a break first or we'll go right into it?
let's go right into it.
Okay, and then get me the T2T.
And we'll get a T2T, but he's got a real special announcement for us. So let's bring on friend of the show, host of the Grassroots Truthcast, entrepreneur, and just a great American patriot, Gene Valentino. Gene, you're on with the mayor.
I couldn't be at a better place than to be with Mayor Giuliani.
You are, Gene.
Hello, Mayor. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Gene. How are you?
I'm doing fine. A lot of good things going on here. We chatted. You were on a podcast of mine recently, the Grassroots Truthcast.
Yes. And then you were on
had a great
my earlier show on Frank Speech, and now you're on my my longer running show, America's Mayor Live.
Well, we sit here in the Panhandle of Florida, which is Congressional District Number 1. It's an interesting area. It's the home, CD1, for former Congressman Joe Scarborough, a Republican conservative going back.
I remember his family supported me when I ran for president.
That's right. And since then, he, went to the dark side, I guess you'd say, ended up at MSNBC and finds a need with Mika, his wife, to seek a mea culpa with President Trump recently. Interesting. I think a lot of the issues are surfacing over this last 4 to 7 years that shows that America is waking up. Maybe sometimes not as fast as we'd like, but at least they're coming around. And then in the same district, Matt Gaetz just resigning, pulling back from his nomination for Attorney General, and then resigning altogether from the opportunity to run for United States Congress, and then confirming that no way he's going to run again. Matt Gaetz is a fine gentleman who, yes, has had charges placed against him, all unproven. There are more accusations than they were charges. But we're dealing with a deep state that has been allowed to pollute this nation over the last 4 years. And Rudy, you and I talked about it on the show recently. Here's what's bothering me about the Matt Gaetz situation If Matt Gaetz has done something so wrong, why has not the DOJ gone after Mayorkas
No,
and
they,
Christopher Wray? And let's name 50 more people, including the co-conspirators who said that signed off on a legal document for John Brenner and James Clapper that talked about the Hunter Biden being a Russian conspiracy when in fact it was real information and it was Matt Gaetz who turned around with a copy of the drive and put into the record in as part of the evidence in the hearing before a DOJ and FBI person put into the record to say that the laptop was real and nothing happened. Nothing happened. You would know this better
yeah,
than me,
absolutely.
Rudy.
No, I do, because I was for 17 months subjected to Biden's claim that I was a Russian pawn. I was
Yeah,
totally. I'm actually suing Biden
good.
for defamation in New Hampshire.
And you represent one of the many that the deep state manipulated strategically
Mhm.
over the years. So I've had enough. Rudy, I'm here to come on your show. And while I have filed paperwork with the federal government and with the Secretary of State in Florida, I'm announcing on your show that I want to be your next congressman for Congressional District Number 1. I would like to take Matt Gaetz' seat with the blessing of Ron DeSantis and Matt Gaetz because
God
they're
bless
both
you.
fine. And I pray to God we can conquer this mountain. And I think we've got it all on our side. I will say that we have former acting ICE director Tom Homan, who appears to be the nominee with President Trump for
He
ICE
is.
director coming up. Yeah, and I guess the confirmation looks pretty obvious. Tom Homan
I
has
think
given me
so. I think Tom. I can't imagine that Tom would have any opposition.
well, yeah,
He was appointed originally by Obama.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't. Tom Homan didn't have any opposition endorsing me either.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
So
Yeah,
Tom,
that's a very. Isn't that a good endorsement?
oh, that
Absolutely.
that's something, and so he's going to be part of the team of endorsements nationwide that are going to be getting behind me for my
Bless
candidacy
you.
for Congress. And Mr. Giuliani, I hope and pray there's a spot in that Trump administration for you as well, because there's just too many people with a lot of talent
Mhm.
that are going by the wayside. I heard you talking earlier. Boy, I think they're reducing the population in Florida with all the appointees from Florida going up to DC.
It's interesting how that often happens, right?
Yeah,
But
it's
you know,
crazy.
it's not unusual. I mean, the president. People forget this. The president now is a Floridian. And I remember when Ronald Reagan first became president, there was criticism he took too many people from California. Uh, so, I mean, that's why you tend to get to know people and get to know them better. So, the reality is that these are people he's appointing, with a few exceptions, are people he know. Pam Bondi has been with him for 10 years, right? So
Yeah,
it's not an unknown. And so was Matt. I mean, Matt is someone he knows. Pete Hegseth is someone he knows really well. Every
yeah.
once in a while, you pick someone you don't, but he's making appointments of people that he knows. I mean, he's worked with Tom before. He knows
Well, that
exactly what Tom can do.
I have 5 key points on my platform, and the first one is a complete house cleaning. Donald Trump's making my job easier as congressman. Draining the swamp. We have to protect Donald Trump and his backside. Draining the swamp is what is the number one priority. It's more than just a bad political behavior of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who, during a crisis right now with the threat of Russia looming, is off on some vacation somewhere. So if you were to consider Biden incapacitated and exercise the 25th Amendment, you would have a vice president totally incapable of running shop. I want to run this by you, and I think it's worthy of a discussion with the audience, is what about an amendment that says that when a president is elected,
Read the bottom. That I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. How about that? Yeah, it's on the what about an amendment that says that the president elect, in this case Donald Trump, could accelerate his role and authority and become the president sooner when the existing president shows signs of incapacitation. If they want to exercise the 25th Amendment, do so not to put Kamala in, but to jumpstart the inauguration of Donald Trump.
You got a very creative mind, Gene. That would drive them crazy. Can you imagine? They want to pack the Supreme Court, but they won't do that.
What is it you
That would
wanted me
be
to read? What is it you wanted me to read?
oh, nothing. It was just a mistake.
Nope. Nothing on your end. What we're curious, though, Gene, the race for the first congressional district, of course, Governor Ron DeSantis just announced April Fool's Day for the general. But of course, the primary is January 28th, I believe. And so
Yeah, that's
you've got your work cut out for you. I mean, chances are we're going to have quite a number of candidates in this race. And as we know, in a district like this, the real race is the primary. What is your message to the good people of the first congressional district on why they should look at you when there will be probably 7 to 8, if not more,
Well,
candidates in this race?
There'll be a lot of candidates.
Well, yeah, I would only say that if you like Donald Trump, if you like Doug Burgum, if you like Rick Scott, if you like Vivek Ramaswamy, these are businessmen who were in business first and then got into government and politics. I follow the same path. I worked my whole life in business to get things going. I always wanted to serve my nation. And I remember my grandfather asked me to promise before he passed away that I would serve my nation someday. He was a World War I veteran and hero, and he gave me that American flag that's behind me. He said, "You serve your country," and I promised him I would. So here I am. I'm doing it for the right reasons. It's not you don't get to own me. I'm not going to be part of any political cabal. I'm doing this for the greater good of the people, the grassroots, not for the select few at the top. And we have now an agenda, which I want to. I wish I could say I'm the only one creative I came up with. Rudy is the one I mentioned to you a minute ago about maybe allowing an amendment to get the president-elect to jumpstart his role earlier, if there's an incapacitation that we're dealing with, because there's certainly telegraphing some bad signs to the rest of the world, and they're taking advantage of us right now. And I'm only concerned, Rudy, that the world be patient and hold tight.
Yeah, but you would think, but the man has no wisdom at all, that he wouldn't make decisions as critical as bombing Russia and let the next president deal with that. He waited 2 years to do it. If he was going to do it, he should have done it a year ago, and there would have been a chance it could wear Russia down. Also, be a chance that Russia would start a nuclear war. But okay, you don't do it now when you're going out of office. What's wrong with it? We know what's wrong.
Yeah, that should telegraph to the world. I mean, it's already seen by Saudi Arabia that maybe there's a chance for them to renew their relationship with Israel again, refortify the Abraham Accords, and to do a reach out. To reach out to the rest of the world and say, hey, you can trust us again to be your ally and partner. And that's where this needs to go. On my website, www.valentinoforcongress.com, Valentino, F-O-R, Congress.com. You'll find my 5 key items of the platform. Donald Trump is helping me a lot with the first one, and that's to drain the swamp. The next one is a surprise. I know Mr. Trump has mentioned it, but it's key to me because the economics can justify it. You ready? End the federal income tax. End the federal income tax and move toward a use tax system. Case in point, real quick, when you drive your Uber down the highway, What does the state or local, state, and federal agencies get off the use of that car on that highway? Nada, because we're not paying a gas tax if you own a Tesla. And I own a Tesla. I'm getting away with murder. I should be paying a fee per mile for the use of the road that I'm wearing down by the use of my Tesla. Just one small example. That's on the federal income tax level. Another case, we're going to fix the economy by going back to the small businesses and mid-sized businesses and putting the incentives there for them to not to manage their business. Government needs to know how
That's
to get the
fabulous.
hell out of business, but we need to do something smart. You know, Lee Iacocca went to government. You remember this. And we're going back to the 70s when he was head of Chrysler. He got
I
$15,
remember.
$20 million out of Chrysler back then. It was to save 15,000 jobs. It was a major hemorrhage that would have occurred at the time in our economy. Chrysler Motor Company. The government gave, for the first time, a loan to a business. Guess what? He paid back the loan. He paid back
I remember.
he paid back the loan and he saved the company and things moved on. So government needs to help companies, but then they need to get the hell out and let the entrepreneurs and the businessmen who are taking the risk run it for profit. And there's no dirty word about profit. That's the profit they can turn around and do what with? Expand the business, increase salaries, hire
Gene?
more people.
We're going to have to take a break. I'm sorry. We ran out of time. But,
Well, thank you for having me.
Also, Gene, tell them how to get your podcast.
Oh, well, if you go to genevalentino.com or www.grassrootstruthcast.com. Oh, by the way, folks, you'll see Rudy Giuliani on one or two of those episodes. You can subscribe, and we push the episodes out to you every week. People from all walks of life. We had Tom Homan
Yeah, they're
on.
excellent.
We had Senator
yeah, they're
Rick
excellent.
Scott. We had several other, Lee Greenwood. Robert Malone on the COVID issues. Boy, talk about a mistake on our vaccine and mask issue the last 4 years. It's a separate
you'd be in
conversation, but it's criminal.
You'd be a
Anthony
big
Fauci
contribution.
should be in big trouble.
You'd be a big contributor, Gene. Well, we'll have you on plenty, so you get a chance to get your message out. Okay.
Thank you. I welcome
God bless
it.
you.
I bless
God
you
bless
too, and
you.
thank you for the time, Rudy. Thank you for letting me get the
Thank you.
message out.
Thank you. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
With America's Mayor Live, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Gene. It's exciting to see a guy take on the heavy burden of running for Congress, and you want many new people, good people. I thought he made a terrific point about people from business. I really do think they do better than the career politicians. There's always an exception to everything. But if you want a general rule, that's not a bad general rule. Well, Police Sergeant Christopher David Fitzgerald of the Temple University Police Department sustained fatal gunshot wounds while attempting to arrest a robbery suspect. Thanks to caring friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to provide a mortgage-free home to his wife, Marissa, and their 5 children in honor of their hero. Christopher's love for law enforcement was inspired by his parents, who both proudly served as Philadelphia police officers. Prior to his premature passing, Christopher was nominated for Temple University Police Department Officer of the Year. So this was an exceptionally talented police officer. Sadly, it's an award he would receive only posthumously. Christopher was a great father, husband, brother, and son, and he is very much missed. He'll be remembered by many for his passion and determination to make his own name in life while improving conditions for residents in the surrounding community and Temple University stakeholders. It's heroes like Christopher who protect and serve our communities and our nation. Help heroes like Christopher and their families. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers, $11 a month to T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. Well, I want to show you something. Now, I want you to tell me what you think, because I am on this, I have to say, and I'll probably get myself in deep trouble, I am a bit of a, how would you say, doubter. But there was a UFO that, or at least a suspected UFO that ended up on a Fox newscast that aired on Monday. And I'm going to show you the picture. I'm going to try to put it up on the other screen too. So that's what they're basing it on. That little white dot there. I don't get it. Do you?
Let me see that.
Yeah, look at it.
Let me see that again, Mayor. I'm going to bring that up I'm going to take a picture of
Yes.
that for the audience.
If you can make that bigger, I'm going to see if I can get it on here, because I want somebody to tell me that you can look at that and you suspect that it's a UFO. I don't get it.
1 second. Yeah, I'm going to bring this up to get some
Well,
audio.
you get that ready. You get that ready, and I want you to reflect on the following quotation from the Pennsylvania Democratic County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marseglia. It goes back to November 14th. This is the a general principle of the Democrat Party in Pennsylvania that I learned to my chagrin in 2020. We all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. This was to justify her using illegal ballots in order to try to cheat now Senator McCormick out of his seat and illegally elect Casey. We all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country. I sure do. And people violate laws anytime they want. Pennsylvania Democratic County Commissioner. It should be on the platform of the party. They have absolutely no regard for the law. I also want to point out that Albert Morris allegedly threw his 2-year-old pit bull to his death from a Crown Heights balcony. As you know, I'm a dog lover and very much interested in rescuing stray dogs. And look at this beautiful dog. Now, I know that people have certain things about pit bulls, but I'm going to tell you because I have a good friend that's a pit bull. Pit bulls can be the most wonderful dogs imaginable if they aren't trained for fighting. They originally weren't fighting dogs at all, and they happen to be among the most loving and gentle dogs. Now, they are big and strong, so you have to have them in the right circumstances. If you're going to put them with a little baby, it doesn't make any sense because they tend to jump up and kiss you. But if a human being hasn't ruined them, they're wonderful dogs, and it's a shame that they are they undergo prejudice. very hard, I think, to when they're at a shelter to get them adopted. I know the people in New York, and I hope around the country, are concerned about the Daniel Penny case, and I hope they paid attention to the coroner who was a witness for the Penny defense, who said that he was quite certain that it was not a chokehold, and that the massive amount of drugs in his system and the tremendous illnesses that he had would have had more to do with it, and that there were some of the typical signs of death by chokehold were not there. Now that, at least, it seems to me, introduces reasonable doubt into what appeared to be more biased than usual testimony from the coroner for the city or for the state, who seemed to be going out of a way to try to convict Mr. Penny, because the determination that it was a chokehold is not definitive. It's a percentage. It's 90% chance, 80% chance, 70% chance. According to the other coroner, no chance. But even there, he did admit that that these are diagnoses of dead people, and diagnosis can be wrong. But what all the defense has to do is introduce reasonable doubt. It's the government that's got to prove its proposition beyond a reasonable doubt. And the state of the evidence on the coroner's report does not prove beyond a reasonable doubt this was a chokehold. Nor does the video. I've looked at that video over and over and over again. I do not see that arm moving from the chin to the Adam's apple. It's here. Now, I don't see the whole video, but I don't know that there's any video the jury saw that would show it going to the. And when the coroner had to admit, and didn't do it originally, the state's coroner, that she looked at the video before she did the autopsy, and was convinced that it was a chokehold. Well, I know she's wrong about the video. Whether it was a chokehold or not, the video doesn't show that. The video shows him holding the guy's chin. It also shows something else, which she should have noted, and it should have modified her opinion, at least make it a little more questionable as opposed to so definitive. It seemed like she had a real desire to convict him. The reality is that Mr. Neely, who was the career criminal, mentally ill person who was threatening to kill people on the train, which a number of the people who testified took seriously, some didn't, but many did. Well, isn't that the point? If some did take it seriously, then how was Mr. Penny's actions at all unreasonable? In fact, weren't they commendable? He came forward to help the people that this man was threatening to kill. Yeah, that's what he was doing. He was saying, "I'm going to kill you," and going around and approaching them in a frightening way, frightening enough so that a woman was very, very scared for her baby. Another guy ran away, but Mr. Penny did what we want someone to do: stepped in and protected the people on the train. Unfortunately, he was white and the guy was black, and that was the total basis for Bragg's bringing the case, because Bragg is a virulent racist, and it is not true that blacks can't be racist. They can be just as racist as whites, and whites can be racist too. And unfortunately, Bragg is a terrible, terrible anti-American prosecutor. He doesn't understand the Constitution. He completely bastardizes it. And of course, he's a creature of George Soros, which is the reason why I don't like anybody associated with George Soros. The doctor, Dr. Satish Shundru, testified that he didn't see the typical signs of known chokehold deaths. And he testified definitively the chokehold did not cause deaths. And he pointed to a number of He said the combined effects of sickle cell crisis, schizophrenia, and the struggle and restraint, and the massive amount of synthetic marijuana in his system combined to cause the death. Reasonable doubt? Yes, sir. You're damn right. Reasonable doubt. So we have lined up, as we pointed out on the earlier show, but I want to make sure you get this information as well. We have lined up on the border now about 2,000 migrants that are ready to come into the United States. That's very comforting to know, because they want to get in. There's a picture of them if you want to take a look at it, Ted. They want to come in while the bargain is still going, while the country is still not a country. We're not a country because we don't have a border. Countries don't have borders. And although Biden, in lieu of because of the election and in order to fool you, they've done a little better job at the border, even though they've been sneaking people in on private planes and other ways, particularly to accommodate their Chinese buddies. This group is hoping that there's a nice couple of bargain days, and we get another couple of thousand or multiple thousands that come in and join the 15 million at minimum that we have in this country that are creating a massive crime wave. 60% of the crime in Queens is caused by illegal aliens. And those crimes are going on all over America. 2 illegal migrants have been charged with raping children in Massachusetts. Both of them were cut loose at various times and not reported to immigration by the Massachusetts authorities, who I believe acting criminally in not reporting to the proper federal authorities. And then a third one was arrested because this guy was let in without the Biden totally incompetent vetting at the border, picking up the fact that he had raped a young girl in his native country. It's an absolute disaster, one of the worst in the history of this country. In Colorado, a Venezuelan migrant who crossed into the country illegally in 2023 in El Paso, and when he came in, Jesus Alberto Pereira Castillo was allowed to go free because there was no room for him in the detention facilities. Well, how about building a detention facility? Well, the failure to do that sent him off. They wanted him to go to Orlando, but he wanted to go to Colorado because Governor Feliz Navidad loves to get illegals in his state. He gives them all kinds of benefits. He kind of competes with Mayor Adams for how much money you get, how much welfare you get. You sure the hell don't have to work.
Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
See, they show him pictures like that, and they say, that's the place we want to go. That guy looks like a total jackass. Yeah, we'll go to Colorado. Man, we can take advantage of that moron. He is the governor. Jared Polis is the governor, well regarded by Democrats. He just happens to have the largest per capita illegals in Denver, even more than New York, although New York has a larger gross number. Well, this guy, Jesus Alberto Pereira Castillo, was arrested in Denver on Tuesday. He had raped a 14-year-old girl. He also had been arrested 2 or 3 times, never put in prison, and never reported by order of the governor and mayor to the federal authorities. The governor and mayor should go to jail. That jackass should go to jail. That kid wouldn't have been raped if the guy followed the law. Where does he come off not following the law? What the hell is wrong with these Democrats? Holman gave an inspired presentation the other night on Fox about Lincoln Riley. It gave you all the reasons why things are going to be very different as soon as these borders are. And he laid it right out. Lincoln Riley would be alive today if a number of high-ranking Democrats followed the law, including Mayor Adams, the police in New York, Biden and Harris. This guy was arrested several times in New York. He came in illegally also in 2023, also from Venezuela, which has a disproportionate number of people coming in because Maduro, who is the dictator in communist Venezuela, is following the Castro playbook, which is to empty the jails, prisons, and insane asylums. So this guy, who is a trans Nicaragua member, was let in, and he got arrested several times in New York. Never, of course, nobody goes to jail in New York, just about. And but he never reported to immigration because it's against the law in New York. How about that? It's against the law in New York. I didn't pass it, believe me. It's against the law in New York to report to immigration. Well, they didn't report to immigration, and Lincoln Riley is the victim of that because the guy went, as Governor Kemp was outraged by, Biden paid for his plane trip to Athens, Georgia, where in a very short period of time, he started following women. We don't know if this was the only time he raped someone. Rape tends to be underreported, but he raped Lincoln, as you know from the trial. Those who have followed it, she fought him off valiantly, and it was his undoing that she fought him off because his DNA was all over her fingernails and blood. But I point this out because it doesn't have to happen. If you hadn't elected Biden, if you did, this wouldn't happen. That kid be alive. What Biden did wouldn't have happened under Trump or under any other president. His numbers are astounding. 1 year, 3.5 million. We had never had 1 million before, I don't think, under any president. I'm not talking about Trump, but any president. The ICC has indicted Bibi Netanyahu, but not Hamas. That's George Clooney's wife, equally mean-spirited and stupid like he is. They may be some of the stupidest people in our society, the Hollywood actors. I mean, what dumb ideas they have. Well, it turns out that her boss, the guy who brought the indictment against Bibi Netanyahu, Karim Khan, has charges of being a serial sex abuser. But nobody seems to care about that. The International Court of Justice has a serial sex abuser as their top prosecutor. I do not think we subscribe to the internet or recognize the jurisdiction of the International Court. I hope we don't, right? Unless Biden did something in the middle of the night I don't know about. But it's ridiculous to indict Bibi Netanyahu for killing civilians when Hamas invaded Israel for the sole purpose of killing civilians. The civilians weren't collateral deaths to the attack. Civilians were central to the attack. The killing of the soldiers was collateral. In the case of Israel, the killing of the combatants and the Hamas leaders is the core of the attack. And then civilians collateral, and worse than collateral because the numbers go up higher as a result of the fact that Hamas, as everyone knows, uses them as human shields and also for publicity. And even with that, the percentage in the case of Israel is quite low, not beyond what happens in war. In fact, better than the recent wars that America has been involved in. Putin is yelling and screaming about he now feels free to use missiles, and including against the countries that are helping Ukraine, because of each one gets escalated because of something. So he having difficulty taking back their city. I think he fought 2 battles there, and both of them resulted in big losses for the Russians. I think one was 1,300, it was 1,900. And if you want to look at the board there, we're talking about Kursk up in the upper region of the map. That is now Kursk up here is now occupied by Ukraine. It's only a small ways into Russia, and about 2 weeks ago, the Russians conducted an invasion of Kursk and would turn back. Then again, turn back. And now they have decided and have announced on a training, and I don't know if they're there yet, but they brought in 10,000 North Korean troops who they're going to use in the attempt to take Kursk back. As a result of that, Zelensky got Biden to agree to let him use our longer range missiles. Longer in the sense of the ones they were using before took you about 50 miles into Russia, which would generally get you to Kursk. But the new ones basically go 150 miles, which is represented pretty much by that line right there. Now, they do not threaten Moscow. Putin went ballistic over that. You'll see why that was a pun, a stupid one. Because he said, as a result of that, I can use ballistic missiles now. Now, ballistic missiles are in a totally different category than these missiles. They travel very long distances, they do massive damage, and they can carry nuclear warheads. I don't think they've been used before. Well, they certainly haven't been used in this war before. So yesterday he took one and he sent it from Russia to there, Dnipro. Right there. Dnipro. See, Dnipro right there. And this line, the line right below it, there, that straight line, represents Russian territory. So as you can see, it was rather close to Russian territory. And I do believe that's a place he probably wanted to take as part of his land bridge to Crimea. So hitting it with a ballistic missile might be a preliminary to trying to take it, add it to his holdings so he has more to give back. So the debate now is Putin bluffing, or is Putin serious that he's going to use ballistic missiles against the facilities of the countries that aid Ukraine? I don't think we have the luxury of not taking him seriously. Probably if I had to, if I just had to give you my conclusion, I would say he's posturing because he wants to get as much of an advantage as he can get before Trump gets in. But then again, he might want to do ultimate damage before Trump gets in. I always thought that was a risk with him or Z or the Ayatollah. So let's see, and let's be on guard. And I really do think that Biden shouldn't be making these decisions on the way out. This is a hell of a thing to load on the next president to escalate things. You didn't win the war. If you wanted to win the war, maybe you should have tried this a year ago or 2 years ago. You didn't. You stopped Ukraine from doing this. And now, as you're going out, you put the guy in Russia in a position that he's threatening to use nuclear weapons. That's a hell of a way to come into the presidency. I don't know if a president's ever came in that way. There's an article in the Post by David Harsanyi, who I generally agree with and really respect, but it's sort of a hit job on RFK. I recommend not reading it. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. He basically tries to paint him as a kook. Nothing. I know Robert Kennedy for a very long time, and if anyone should be upset with him, it should be me. He sued me probably more often than even the Biden crooks sue me. Except they were all in my official capacity as mayor, and he was suing to protect the Hudson River. And some of those suits were extremely valuable, and some of them were a little crazy. Is he a bit of a zealot? Yeah, but so am I. And that's what makes it possible that he'll actually reform the damn place. You got the guts to do it. Some moderate, you would get so scared it'd make your head spin. There's it's hard. It's almost impossible to say who has the toughest job. Is it whoever takes Pam Bondi or whoever takes over the FBI? Man, I mean, the FBI has become like a communist directorate. 5 years of injustice and crimes and trying to frame Trump and trying to frame all of his associates. Justice Department, same thing. That can be a tough one. The Department of State might as well be working for China. Maybe it is, or Iran. That can be a tough one to turn that around. But so is the whole medical complex, pharmaceutical medical complex, which is surrounded probably by more greasy, slimy lobbyists than anything else, with lots of senators and congressmen on the take who are going to come after you like crazy if you try to impose any kind of honesty on them. The Fauci situation, if you bother to read Kennedy's book, which is completely correct, I mean, all that is all about money. It's about having produced a situation so you could produce those useless vaccines, and people became billionaires as a result of it, and a lot of people died. That really became, as often happens with one incident, the proximate cause of taking a look at an industry that's been doing that to us for a long, long time. And the whole thing with vaccines, I don't agree with the position that all vaccines are terrible or wrong or bad. But I do think we've gone from something like 8 vaccines to 80 or something, or 50. I had Andrew on to describe this. When Andrew was a kid, he was subjected to a requirement of 8 vaccines, and his baby is subjected to like 48. You can't tell me that some of them are just for money. But the vaccine industry is a great industry because everybody has to take it, and the government pays for it in large measure. You don't have to worry about Medicaid, Medicare, insurance, somebody paying. Straight cash, boom, just put it right in your. Somebody put $1 billion right in the company's account, which is why they had to resist any form of treatment, because if there was a useful treatment like hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, you would not have been able to get emergency approval. And by getting emergency approval, you cut out all of the steps that we take to make sure the vaccines are safe. Because vaccines, because they have such a powerful impact, right? They prevent a disease, can have terrible side effects. And sometimes those side effects don't emerge for a year or two. But we just had to get it out as an emergency. And it was an emergency because there was no treatment. And they made sure there was no treatment, because anybody who suggested a treatment, they destroyed. Kennedy exposed that in a way that was completely documented. I don't know how many footnotes he has, more than I've ever seen in any book. And he has the zeal to actually change it, as do many of these appointees. And it's one of the things that I think has the Senate in particular nervous, because, and I'm not leaving out Republicans, be careful of just how much the lobbyists own so many of them.
That's a very good point, Mayor.
The government, I mean, the public interest means nothing when you look at the campaign contribution, or maybe more. What do you think? You think they're all honest? Speaking of not honest, Mayorkas and Ray didn't show up today for their hearings with the Senate, and of course haven't been arrested like Bannon and Navarro because they're Democrats. See, I think I have a contempt hearing coming up too. I think, but if I were a Democrat, I wouldn't have it. Whole case wouldn't exist if I were a Democrat. It's brought by Biden's lawyer. Can you imagine that? And they don't report that. So the New York Post does an article on my case, and they don't report that the case was brought by Biden's former law partner and a lawyer for the most crooked company in Ukraine that I exposed. Just to kind of give you a suggestion that it might just be political. And now they want to shut me up in saying that, even though they've attacked me like crazy. You can't even defend yourself publicly. You can't yet defend yourself in court. The judge in the court, when I wanted to testify, warned me that if I said the same things that I was saying publicly, she'd hold me in contempt. And man, this judge was bloodthirsty. I mean, she put 6 people in jail for more time than anyone, and was angry that other judges weren't giving enough time. So she was looking for any excuse to put me in jail. Now she's got this contempt hearing. Can you believe this is happening in America? So I defend myself after they say that I was hiding property, that I was concealing property, that I took everything out of my apartment. My apartment was filled with furniture. They just completely lied. Of course, the judge believed them. Of course, they're Democrats, and the judge is a Democrat, and it doesn't matter that all you have to do is put on your TV and look at the videotape to see that I'm being framed. Doesn't matter. I can't say that. I'm not supposed to say that. What I just said, they claim now is contempt that should put me in jail. Because there was an injunction originally that we wouldn't comment. But then they started commenting and attacking me. And the injunction does not require you to be a punching bag if you're being fair. You know, the allegation against Pete Hegseth might be a good learning experience for everyone, and not to go so fast. So they alleged that Pete Hegseth had forced himself on a woman. I don't know what they called it. They didn't call it. It wasn't rape, but it was like sexual abuse, I guess. It turns out that that the accuser had originally told police that things got fuzzy while she was drinking with him at a hotel bar. And she couldn't remember going to his room where they had sex. But the day after they did it, late in the day, she came forward and said she was abused. Might have been when she found out it was Pete Hegseth, who works for Fox and has a lot of money. However, thank God there was hotel security footage, much like the case that I'm talking about, where unfortunately in that case, about a quarter of it has been illegally and surreptitiously deleted and deceptively deleted before it was given to me. Although enough of it is retained so you can see who's telling the truth, if you want to take a look. So here, the hotel security footage and witness testimony revealed that the woman didn't look at all intoxicated before she and Hegseth went into the room, which went a long way to confirm Hegseth's version that it was consensual. And also she claimed then later that they had an argument outside. You see them outside walking and they're not arguing. They're actually holding hands or have their arms around each other. So since when did consensual sex between two grown human beings become a crime or a sexual abuse? When you want to get money out of a rich guy. I know about that too. So maybe people should be a little careful. I mean, I keep saying, if they're all telling the truth, how the hell is Biden president? What about that woman that says she was abused by Biden? She wasn't telling the truth because of the Democrat. Well, let's hope that over this weekend, cooler heads prevail. Putin stops with these threats. I don't know how to evaluate what Biden is doing because I don't know if Biden can evaluate what he's doing. He sure looks like he's completely out of it now. So, for example, when he gave permission to Zelensky to use the longer range missiles that he's been denying him permission to do for a year and a half, is he really capable of making that decision? Ted, I mean, I don't, when you look at him.
No, somebody else. He's not even a puppet. He's someone else is making the decisions.
Now
I don't
that
think he's in the meetings anymore.
Now that there's a president-elect, you would think they would have the decency to wait and let a person with a sound mind who's been elected by the American people make that decision.
Yeah, you really got to wonder what.
Instead of making his position to settle this war more difficult.
That's what he's doing. He's attempting to muck it up to keep to make it as difficult as possible for President Trump to bring this thing to an end. Which I'm confident, and I won't put words in your mouth, Mayor. I'm confident that our president-elect can get this done.
I am. I'm a lot more confident he can get it done than the cabal around the nitwit.
Yeah, the guys that.
And all this playing around, he could cause a nuclear war, a world war.
Yeah, what is wrong with these people?
This is the great fear that Ronald Reagan always had, that we'd have an incompetent or insane person in charge of either one of the buttons, either in Russia or in the United States. I always thought it would be Russia. Putin may be vicious and evil, and he is, but he's not insane. I'm counting on that. Right?
Yeah.
I'm counting on the fact that he's postured to some extent.
Yeah.
But I'm counting on that. But I'd be prepared that he's not, because you should always, I think the history of the last 150 years has taught us that you should take threats seriously. We haven't taken a lot of threats seriously, and we've gotten into terrible wars as a result of that. Hitler, but we didn't take bin Laden seriously. We never took him seriously. We'd go, Clinton would go hit empty fields. And the Democrat reluctance to use the United States force is the reason why the United States has to use force. And a lot of times, if you show that you're prepared and you're ready and willing to use it if you have to, they don't push you any further. I mean, Trump's attack on Syria with Z sitting right next to him went a long way to convince Z, I'm not going to fool with this guy. Biden's ridiculous, unbelievably cowardly and traitorous handling of Afghanistan went a very long way to convince Putin, Z, the fat boy in North Korea, and the religious maniac in Iran that he could be pushed all around the world. And he was. And then each succeeding incident, he acted more traitorous, more cowardly. Giving up the Bagram air base isn't traitorous. Giving up an airbase 400 miles from China isn't an act of treason. Particularly if you got $21 million from the country that gets the benefit of it. Are we fools? Well, the Democrats think we are. And the Democrats have made fools out of lots of people who vote instinctually Democrat, like the people of New York City. And right now, people in Manhattan, even though he's gotten more people there injured and murdered than any DI I can think of, right now, if you take a poll, he's the prohibitive favorite to get reelected, which is another reason that I probably made the right decision moving out. a terrible thing that I had to move out of New York City. And that there are reasons to argue all in favor of it. A terrible thing. I love New York City. And I'm not going to go too far because I could cry. Well, this weekend, I think, let's pray for peace. Let's pray that the country, although the world is going to be turned over to Trump at war, when he turned it over to Biden at peace, let's have it no worse than it is right now, huh? Have Biden. You've done so much damage to this country. You've gotten so many people killed because of a combination of your corruption and your dementia. Don't start a world war. Look at this face. Is that a functioning person? This is just recently taken. Look at that face. This is the guy that right now is guiding us when one of the most vicious dictators in the world is threatening nuclear weapons. This is what we got leading us. Pray. Go to church on Sunday or Saturday, go to synagogue. Pray. There's a good, if you don't go to church or synagogue every week, there's a good week to go and pray to God that he get us through the next 2 months. I'll pray for the people of Ukraine and the people of Israel and the people of Iran. Pray for us as we just asked. And we'll see you at 7 o'clock on Monday on the Rudy Giuliani Show. You can get us always on X or on Frank Network. And then at 8 o'clock on our show we've had for even longer, America's Mayor Live. God bless America.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.